Hey, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate your time. Know that it's important and your attention is valuable. Oh, Mrs. Bell is taking some much needed self care time, but she will be back in future videos. So I just wanted to keep the consistency going, keep the momentum going. I'm taking the idea that my wife came up with, where she said that we're doing a 30-day challenge for our marriage. And today is day one of that. And so it comes with a journal and scripture to stand on. And so today's scripture is from 1 Corinthians 13:4. Excuse me, I'm getting over a little cold. It says that love is patient and kind, excuse me. Patience honors the pace of others. That's important for all of us to realize that not everybody sees the world that same way that we do. That's something that I learned through marriage. My wife, I would say, is very extroverted. She can make a friend everywhere she goes. I'm more introverted. I kind of stay to myself. I have to observe people and realize that I can trust them before I open up. But with that, like I say, what I'm learning is that you meet people where they're at. You don't have to be something that you're not reaching in any direction. So it's like trying to be better than what you really are, or, making yourself out of false humility something that you're not. You just meet people where they are and honor at the pace that they're at. I should put a little note here. When we slow down, we create space for connection instead of frustration. That's something that I'm learning to deal with because, like I said, I'm an observer. So I think about different angles and, you know, social dynamics that people may possibly be doing. Especially in my background, I'm a crisis worker. So I'm always looking for little hints into the psyche. And I want to be helpful for people. But sometimes that can get in the way of actually connecting. And you have to leave some room so that you can actually connect with the person instead of just, you know, talking to fill the space. I learned this in one of my trainings is that, in the context, it was talking about myself and a client. And they said that there's three people in every setting. There's you, there's the other person, and there's the silence in between. So that silence is not just nothing. There's a lot of potential there, you know. And sometimes when we just give people the space to open up at their own pace, let them build trust with us, they'll open up more. It doesn't mean you're being passive. It just means that you're choosing peace over trying to pressure them. You know, we all can relate to something like that where we have a family member and it's like we kind of want to connect with them, but the feeling isn't always mutual. And it's like we are getting to a performing mode instead of just being there and being present. And, I encourage all of us to be present, be authentic, rather than trying to force our own agenda. Kindness is love made visible. People can't see your intentions, they feel your tone, your words, and your actions. This is something I swear I'm still working on. Definitely not perfected by any means. I have a very dry, monotone delivery. My wife is more expressive. I've learned a lot from her and our children, of how to be more expressive. I just look at it like people should be able to see what I do, but sometimes, well, yeah, that's important, I would say that it's not important to have actions that are aligned with good values, but people can't see what's in our heart. They can't see what we think. Nobody can read our mind. Despite what some people may think, you probably can be really good at pattern recognition, but nobody can read anybody else's mind. So to be intentional about the words that we use, to take a breath between sentences, to really digest what the other person has said, get a feeling for their tone, right, and how they're saying stuff. And then align it with a little bit of grace, because any number of things could be happening. They could have had a poor night's sleep. They could be having some type of internal battle that you don't know about, and they don't want to worry you, so they just hold it on the inside instead of processing it out. And that might come out as like being short-tempered. They may be anxious. So just giving people that grace, giving people some time to woosah, I think is important, especially in marriage, because the way things are today, it's like, if I'm gonna be honest, it's almost corny to be married. And let me verify what I'm saying, validate what I'm saying. What I mean is, we have so many people that don't take this stuff serious. They don't look at their partner as themselves, number one. They don't look at it like it's a duty. They look at things like it's just, if it feel good, do it. Like, okay, well, I'm not happy anymore, so I'm gonna get a divorce. Or that person over there, I have a crush on them, so I'm going to have an affair. All of that kind of stuff. Like, no judgment. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying, like, I guess the point what I'm trying to make is that we have to be intentional, especially as married people. We have to make sure that when people look at us, they can see a clear difference between, a single person and a person that's in a committed marriage. And their intention is to be a benefit to their partner. And none of us is going to do this perfectly. I know that I'm not. When Mrs. Bell gets on here, if she was to be authentic and transparent, she could tell you about several times where I got on her nerves, or, where I've fallen short. And this is not for me to get into any shame. I'm not trying to make myself seek out pity. I'm just being real. I'm not the perfect husband. But what I do try to do is use my memory to learn. If I stepped on her toes, metaphorically speaking, while we're dancing, then I take that feedback as data and make my intention to be a little lighter on my feet and not step on her toes anymore. I think people can see those small gestures of kindness, and it really can shift the tone. Especially as us, as the men, as the husbands. Not to sound like archaic or anything, but we are the leaders, and we're like the thermostat. If we're in a bad mood, the whole house can feel it, and everybody's walking on eggshells. If we're in a good mood, it's like the whole house can feel it, and it's just exuberance and joy. So it's important for us to not do these grand sweeping things all the time. Sometimes it's just the little stuff. If I know that if I do this thing, it's going to make my children happy. If I do that thing, it's going to make my wife happy. Then I should try to do it, especially if it's something that's small. It's the small things, the little things in life, they add up, they compound, just like every other thing. The habits compound. Going back to patience, it protects relationships from unnecessary harm. And what do I mean by that? Impatience often comes from the ego. It's like my timeline, my agenda, what I want, how I want it. It doesn't factor in others. Like the point of view is stuck on just a self-centered point of view, like kind of what the opposite of what it says over there in 1 Corinthians 13. Depending on the version that you read, it says something to the effect about how love is not selfish, it's not self-seeking. Again, who is perfect in that? But I think our goal should be, walking in love is to intentionally consider other people. Consider how the way you talk affects other people. Those little things that you say kind of out your mouth real quick that you not really thinking about. Those could cut a person. You never know what little slick thing that you said in a moment could stick with that person for days, weeks, months, years, probably the rest of their life in some cases. I'm not hurt and wounded, but I can think of stuff that was said to me in childhood that I still remember today. Whether it be good stuff, neutral stuff, or bad stuff. Like I can go back in my mind and remember stuff that said. You never know what's gonna stick with a person. Is my point. So when you just take that time to take a breath, count to 5, count to 10, name 5 things in your environment while you're listening and you're processing what the person says, it could really help, and it can change the tone. What I've learned in marriage and in life, especially again, my background is crisis. Active listening. Sometimes you just have to hear the person out, let them get it all out. Whatever it is, as long as they're not crossing no crazy boundaries, they're not disrespecting you, or if you're not in literal danger, if it's just some social awkwardness, if it's just, kind of irritating, that, things that they're saying, but you're not literally in danger, just let them have it, because it's not going to matter in the future. What does matter, especially if this person is important to you, is that relationship. That's the main thing. You have to keep the main thing the main thing. So again, going back to what I said earlier, what if they had a bad night's sleep? What if they feel insecure about something and they don't feel like they can come to you with this specific thing that's stressing them out? But meanwhile, it's just taking bandwidth in their mind, and they're not comfortable enough to talk to you about that specific thing, or they feel like they should be able to handle it on their own. But at the same time, it's keeping them on edge and on guard. So that patience will help with rapport building, trust building, and it helps you to be in a place where you respond rather than react. I wish I'm grateful for my wife. I wish she was here right now, because she definitely could give some different feedback, a different point of view. I like her points of view. Again, I just wanted to keep our thing consistent. We said we were going to do this 30-day challenge. So I wanted to make sure that we kept the momentum going. Kindness is strength under control. It takes real power to remain gentle when the stress is high. That reminds me of a story I heard when I heard of the word meekness. meekness, meekness. And the person that told me what meekness is, they used the example of the mother lion. Now, anybody that knows about lions, they know that the women are the hunters. The men they eat and protect the tribe or whatever. But I don't know if it's called a tribe, but they protect the family. And the women go out and they hunt. They're the ones that go get the zebras and the wildebeest and all of that. So they use those powerful jaws to slay the meals for the family. Kill with these jaws easily. Rip, if I was standing there, I'm a big guy. If I was standing there, they could rip me to parts with them jaws. But at the same time, they use those same jaws to pick up a cub and move it from here to there, and they don't even break the skin. That's power under control. That's meekness. That's what patience is in our relationships. Like, yeah, you could verbally tear the person up. Yeah, you could insult them. You could belittle them. You could verbally abuse them. You could match their energy. There's a lot of things that's going on, and stay on that wavelength. Yeah, you could do that. But at the same time, it's like you're coming down to a lower level. That's not your highest version. That's not the the person that's been renewed. While you can do that, I think a lot of times the test is like the fork in the road of you, or who you're going to be, the person that you're going to be going forward. That version of you that shows up, it shows up in those little moments where you could cuss somebody out, where you could tell your partner how you feel in the negative, how you feel in the flesh. You could, probably say things that hurt your kids, and now they have this complex for the rest of their life. They're hearing your voice telling them that they're whatever, But the patience help you to respond. It's just you can slow down and be like, take a breath, and this is what I'm going to do. This is how I choose to respond. Every word, ideally should be encouraging. It should be honest. It should be truthful. That doesn't mean that we should just put up with people when they are doing stuff that is out of alignment. But even then, we want to be gentle. It's a sign of leadership, being kind. We again, I don't think kindness necessarily means that we have to be brown nosing or kissing up or, validation seeking, for a lack of a better term. But at the same time, it is a source of leadership, because it's like I feel so secure in myself that I can give to you this action or this behavior. But the kindness and patience are both choices. They're not moods. I'm sure you can relate to a time in your life, it could have even been today, where you could have acted how you felt, and how you felt was probably less than your best. It was less than loving and kind. Let's just say that to keep it generic. But you chose to act in a way that was beneficial and helpful, not only for yourself, but for the other person. Because again, the main thing, the important thing is the relationship. It's not how you feel in that moment, because your feelings, they come and they go. We all have feelings. There's times where I'm frustrated. There's times where I'm irritable. There's times where I feel less than, But at the same time, I know that those moods come and go. What matters is my values. What matters is the convictions that I choose to align my actions with. And those are fruits of the Spirit, and they get repeated through practice. So one of the things that we said that we were going to do is have an action. So we didn't just want to have a bunch of fluff. So this has to be actionable. It has to be something that you can take with you throughout your day. The action step for today is to speak kindly and intentionally. Before responding, pause and ask, will the next words build up or tear down? It's something that, again, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. That little thing right there, it helps you to realign with the person that you identify with, instead of just going off of old patterns. And maybe a lot of us have traumatic experiences, and we're trying to defend ourselves. So that moment kind of, it recalibrates us. It recalibrates us and helps us to stay in alignment. We can take a slow breath. So choose a warm tone. That's a challenge for me, because as you can see, this whole video, I've been speaking in this tone right here. There's not a lot of inflection or any of that kind of stuff. I'm like this. This is just my temperament. But at the same time, I try to choose the words that are warm. Like, I don't always speak in a way that is just, warm and bubbly, but I try to choose my intention is to choose words that are encouraging, that are kind, that are complimentary, that express gratitude. So I encourage you to do the same. Those are some action steps you could take. If you want to recount, it's just try to take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this going to build up or tear down? You can say this mentally. You don't got to say it out loud. Like, hey, will this build up my wife? Will this tear down my children? You don't have to say it. Just say it to yourself while they're talking, especially if it's a heated moment. While they're talking and you're using your active listening, you take that deep breath. Fill your belly up. Breathe out real slow. And, ask yourself that. And then choose to respond with kindness, with a compliment. Express gratitude. Like, hey, I appreciate you for cutting the grass. Or thank you for making sure that the kids had food last night. I was too sleepy. I went to bed early. Whatever. This is a mindset thing. Spiritually mature don't wait for ideal conditions to love well. They love well, especially when it's inconvenient. That stood out to me. That's where real transformation happens. So listen, I appreciate your attention. You didn't have to watch this, but you did. Thank you for supporting us. Be well.